And a while back, one of our Open the Door to Tai Chi certified instructors in Tucson asked me to address the 6 harmonies of Tai Chi. So thank you, Miji, for that. And we're going to look at that today and how the 6 harmonies are actually in concert with the underlying principles. They're not separate ideas. They're not separate entities. They actually harmonize very well together to enhance your Tai Chi benefits. So before we get started introducing the 6 harmonies, I know that it's going to bring up a lot of questions. So remember that if you're watching live, you can input those questions live. And if you think of something later, or if you're watching the episode on our video membership site, you can always email me, Dianne@taichisystem.com, and I'll answer those questions for you. So let's get started looking at the 6 harmonies. There are 3 internal harmonies, 3 external harmonies. And as I said in the email, it's very tempting to separate them out, but you can't. They roll into each other, as you'll see throughout this episode. But we're going to start very simply with the external harmonies. So I'm going to move up to the mirror. And really, the external harmonies boil down to coordination and effectiveness. The 3 external harmonies are hands harmonize with the feet, elbows harmonize with the knees, and shoulders harmonize with the hips. If we think about it in terms of coordination, let's start with our hands and our feet, that first harmony. Think about wave hands like clouds. I'm going to move a little bit this direction. If we bring this left hand across and it pulls that left foot out, and as our right hand comes across, it pulls that right foot in. So you can see how the hands and the feet are coordinating. And as we do each of these episodes, I definitely want you to be participating and moving with me. Because as you'll see, as we talk about the internal harmonies, really applying these things and focusing on what we're talking about as we do the movements is an important part of getting the benefits of Tai Chi. So don't just watch the episode, participate with me. Let's do that. Wave hands like clouds again, and really focus on your hands, coordinating with your feet. One more. Now, if we think about our elbows and our knees, we're going to use pushing chi. So bring your left foot forward and come into your pushing chi. And you can simply see how the elbows are coordinating with the knees in the movement. But if you take it to that next idea of effectiveness of the movement, not only just coordination, if we were to do pushing chi like this, if we tried to do pushing chi like this, you can see how the knees and the elbows are not coordinating, especially if I tried to do something like this, where I'm not keeping my columns intact, I'm not moving from my dantian, I don't have my elbows dropped, which is also essential in Tai Chi, but this is not an effective movement. If we want to push something, if we want to push open a door, we need to coordinate that movement with that energy from the ground, being rooted and grounded, and we need to keep those elbows low like this. This now becomes an effective push, whereas this is not at all. If we think about our shoulders harmonizing with our hips, this is really about moving from the dantian. It's about keeping our columns intact and helping make the movement effective. Because if we break our columns, we know that we're not balanced. We're not going to be an effective fighter if we're not balanced. Let's do our ward off sequence. So holding that ball to the right, stepping out left, if we move from the dantian, our shoulders and our hips are harmonizing. They're moving together. They're coordinating as we grasp the bird's tail. We move from the dantian when we roll back, and we move from the dantian, harmonizing those shoulders and hips, coming into our pushing chi, which not only is our elbows and our knees, but it is also our shoulders and our hips. Pushing chi. If we come into the other side, holding that ball to the left, stepping out, ward off, grasp the bird's tail, roll back, rotate and press, pushing chi. So you can see how the external harmonies are all about coordination. They're all about effective movements. If in our ward off we don't harmonize shoulders and hips, where if I try to move like this, or if I try just to move from my shoulders, this now I've broken my columns. It's not an effective movement at all. This isn't going to stop my opponent if I'm not in a coordinated movement, right? So those external harmonies are really boil down to that coordination of your body and the effectiveness of the movement. Let's do those wave hands like clouds again and the ward off one more time. So concentrating on those hands and feet, coordinating together. And now just move to the right with your wave hands. I know we don't do that in the form, but it's good practice. And now let's do that ward off, thinking about shoulders and hips first, coordinating that movement, moving from the dantian. But now as we do our pushing chi, thinking about our elbows and our knees, being rooted and grounded, and the effectiveness of that movement. Ward off, grasp the bird's tail. Roll back, rotate and press, pushing chi. So the internal harmonies are, they really, I look at it as motivation into concentration, into action. And the way that they are worded is heart moves into intent, intent moves into energy, and energy moves into movement. Now, that might sound a little mystical to you, but it's not mystical at all. If you look at the heart, and sometimes it's interpreted spirit, that we're not talking about your soul, we're not talking about that kind of spirit. We're talking about the motivation, the heart to do something. And one of the examples that I read talked about, think about a fighter. If they don't have the heart to go into a fight, they're not going to win, right? They have to have first that motivation. But then they need to put that motivation into the intent of understanding their external harmonies, how to coordinate their body to use their energy, moving their intent into their energy, which then coordinates with effective movements. So you can see now how those internal harmonies really start to harmonize, come together with the external harmonies. You really can't separate the two. That fighter has to have the heart to go into the fight, but then she has to prepare her body. She has to know how to move her body, know how to use her energy so that it can be effective movement.